a good couple days. We had such a great adventure at the zoo the other day. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. How's everybody doing? Welcome to our second installment of St. John's Sunday School Remote. Today, it's more like Wednesday school, because today's Wednesday. But we figured since everybody's home and you don't have your regular routine, that we'd send a couple extra videos during the week just to give you something extra special to have you get through the week. I was wondering how your investigations at being a wildlife warrior went. Did any of you find any interesting facts about our wildlife warrior, Steve Irwin, or the Australia Zoo? I'll bet some of you did and found some amazing things. And how he shared, what was that called? Oh yeah, contagious compassion. And that's what he wants us all to do. We were really lucky today that a friend of mine named Sarah and another friend named Erica were able to help deliver some meals today. And you know what? We got infected. But we were infected with contagious compassion, not this virus that's been going around. And you know how that happened? We walked into Samaritan House, and there were so many people working to help other people that we couldn't help but be infected. It was like a beehive of contagious compassion. It was just amazing. So we set out on our adventure for the morning and delivered some meals and were able to pass on that contagious compassion to the family that we were able to deliver a meal to. It was such a blessing. What a day. How did your day go? What did you do today? I'll bet you had some opportunities to be able to do that too, even if it was helping mom or dad with the dishes or just stepping back and being extra nice to a brother or sister, or maybe letting them play with a toy of yours that they don't ordinarily get to play with. Those would be great examples of contagious compassion. And then you could infect them too. Getting back to the Australia Zoo, I was wondering what you guys found out. I found out something really cool. Did you know that they have treated over 90,000 animal patients? Can you imagine helping 90,000 animals? That is just amazing. Amazing. You talk about spreading contagious compassion. So what we're going to do now is a little bit different than last time. But first, I wanted to mention something. If you haven't had a chance, go to our Facebook page and find the address where you can send letters and cards to a nursing home. Because there's some elderly people there that aren't even allowed visitors right now. My dad's one, but not at that place, at a different place, so I know exactly how hard it is. I call him a lot, but we're not allowed to go visit, and I can't take his grandkids to go see him. So I know people in this care home up in Armada would just love to get some cards from you. And I know our friends, Natalie and Nathan, were working on some today, and they were so amazing. They were talking about not being in the clouds and being able, because a rainbow comes after the rain, and painted a beautiful picture of a rainbow. It was just awesome, and that indeed is contagious compassion. But what we're going to do now is we're going to jump into a Bible lesson, kind of like I would do at a children's sermon at church. But we're going to do it like this, and I'm going to do my best to get you involved. So I have some help here. If you didn't notice, I'm in a little fort here because it's kind of rainy out, and I wanted to be able to broadcast from our tree fort outside, but you know, this is going to have to do today. Have any of you ever built a tree fort or a fort in your basement? This time off from school would be a great time to do it. And I'll bet if you ask nicely, your mom and dad might even let you do some of your schoolwork in that tree fort. Wouldn't that be cool? Well, let's get back to our lesson. So, I have this popcorn. What do you think this popcorn might go along with? Where do we eat popcorn? At the movies, that's true. But this time, we are going to take an imaginary journey to a carnival, complete with a roller coaster. I don't know how many of you have been on roller coasters, but I will be the first to admit I absolutely love roller coasters. the up, all the way, and then the down. They are just my favorite. Cedar Point is one of our favorite places to go spend time together as a family. So what we're going to talk about today is the ups and downs and getting ready for that really big downhill and just wondering if God will ride that roller coaster with us. I think you know the answer, but let's go on this journey and see. So we're at the bottom of the hill. We're coming out of the station, and then we start going up the hill, right? And it just bounces all the way up the hill as the track goes click, 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 click. Do it with me. And you get all the way to the top. Put your hands up. Put your hands up like you're going to go over that roller coaster. And you wait and you pause and you have just that second to look around at absolutely everything and you think like you can see forever. And then you go down. And you go on the right and you go to the left. And you go to the right. And you go around a turn and then you go all the way upside down and you come back. And then you go to the right again. And then to the left. And then you do through a twisty. And then you do corkscrew. And then you ride all the way back. And it slows down into the station. And we're back to the beginning again. You can undo your seatbelt. And you're back to the station. So, do you think God was with us on that ride? Was it scary? Were there any moments, even going on the track up as it clicked, clicked, clicked up to the top because you knew what was coming? Was that scary? Or maybe it was when you were sitting at the top for just a second before you went swooshing down that first really big hill. Maybe that was that scary moment for you. Or maybe it was halfway through the ride when you thought things were going to be over and then there was more roller coaster left. That could be scary too. But you know what? God is with us on every single part of that ride, just like he's with us on every single part of our ride through life. The ups, the downs, and all the turns and curves along the way. He is with us every single step of the way. And there's a story in the Bible in Acts chapter 16 where the Apostle Paul and a friend named Silas, and something really awful happened to them. The Bible tells us that some men got really mad at them and disagreed in the things that they were saying. And they dragged them through town and tore their clothes and beat them and lied to them. And Silas and Paul, who hadn't done anything wrong, were thrown in jail. Can you imagine what that would be like? To be in trouble for something that you didn't even do. And their feet were pinned down in these big wooden blocks. How would you feel? That, I'm sure, would be very scary as well as uncomfortable. And I would think that my reaction would be, I'd be kind of mad. Not kind of, really mad at the people that had done this to me. But you know what? They weren't. You know what they did while they were in prison and all these shackles? They remembered that God was always with them, and they prayed and sang songs with all of the prisoners. Isn't that just amazing? You talk about spreading contagious compassion. They were having compassion for their jailers. Wow. Isn't God amazing? If that's not an example of God always being with us, it was just amazing. Romans 8:38 and 39, Paul wrote and tells us, "Yes, I am sure that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor ruling spirits, nothing now, nothing in the future, no powers, nothing above us, nothing below us, anything else in this whole wide world will ever be able to separate us from the love of our God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord." Where can we go that God isn't with us? Do you think there's absolutely anywhere that we can go? Can I hide in this fort and get away from God being here? Can I go outside and hide in a tree fort? Or could I hide in a tunnel? Or could I hide in a dark closet? Or could I hide in a game of hide and go seek someplace? Could I hide in maybe my sin? Could I hide in the things that I do wrong? No, God is with us through all of that, and He is there to guide us through it, just like those tracks on that roller coaster guide us all the way up the hill and all the way back down the hill and take us through all those twists and turns of life. I'd say we're kind of in one of those twisty turns, maybe even a corkscrew right now with everything that's going on. But you know what? God is with us now too. Isn't that just amazing? So I want to read a story tonight with you, but before we do that, we're going to do a little prayer, and I'm going to see if you can do this with us. It goes to the song of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. And I'm going to give you a disclaimer that I am not a singer. There's a reason that I'm not in choir. But we're going to give this a shot anyway. And this is how it goes. You all know. Row, row, row your boat. This goes, thanks for up and happy times. Thanks for excitement too. And when the bumps come, help us pray and hold on tight to you. But it's going to have some motions that go with it. So this is what we're going to do. Thanks for up and happy times. We're going to raise our hands just like we're on that roller coaster. And thanks for excitement too. We're going to bounce all the way up. We're going to bounce all the way up. And when the bumps come, help us pray. Hold our hands and pray. And hold on tight to you. And we're going to hug just like God gives us a big hug. So here we go. See if you can give this a try with me. Thanks for up and happy times. Thanks for excitement too. Maybe even go down that roller coaster. And when the bumps come, help us pray and hold on tight to you. One more time. Thanks for up and happy times. Thanks for excitement too. And when the bumps come, help us pray and hold on tight to you. Great job. Now what we're going to do is read a little bit of a story. This is one of my favorite books, and I really want to share it with you. And there is nothing better than a story in a fort. And we even have popcorn. So I'll give you a second. You can pause the video if you want to and go make your own popcorn. Maybe even build a fort and pause right here. And we're going to read this story. It's called The Little Rose of Sharon. You're not going to be able to read that because it's going to be backwards. This is one of my favorite stories. Spring came in the newly made world, and every day a certain little rose grew taller and more beautiful. Surely the Creator will be proud of me, she hoped as the color deepened in her petals. The little rose watched as the hills and valley of Sharon came to life. Daffodils grew on the hillside, almond trees bloomed full of white, and the sweet smell of myrtle blossoms filled the air. As the large green leaves on the fig tree above her danced gently in the breeze, the little rose looked up and saw a dove sitting on a nest made of twigs and grass. Inside the nest was a tiny white egg. While the mother dove flew over the hillside looking for seeds and nuts, the father dove sat on the egg and made soft cooing sounds. Someday, very soon, thought the little rose, the baby dove will hatch from that egg. Early one morning, as the sun peeked over the eastern sky, the little rose saw the Creator. That's God. He was walking through the cool grass, looking at all his trees and flowers. Sometimes he would stop for a moment and listen to a bird's song, or sit in the shade of an olive tree and watch the sheep grazing on the distant hills. The little rose stood up straight and tall and opened her petals as far as she could. She hoped the Creator would notice her as he walked by. There's the garden. Soon he came walking toward her. Surely the Creator will be pleased with my beautiful petals, she thought happily. Then the Creator stood before her. For a long time, he looked down at the deep red petals and smiled. Before he turned to go, he bent down and breathed her sweet smell. The little rose felt her heart burst with joy. He noticed me, she thought, and he smiled at me. Truly, he must think I am beautiful. Later that evening, as she drifted off to sleep, the little rose was still remembering the smile on the Creator. Oops. There is the beautiful rose. Soon, during the night, a storm rolled in from the Mediterranean Sea. The wind howled through the trees and the rain beat down on the shrubs and the flowers. The little rose bent and swayed in the storm. She was frightened of losing her beautiful red petals. As the rain beat against her, she held onto her petals with all of her might and strength. Look at that storm. Finally, the storm ended, and ours will too. When morning light filled the sky, the little rose was proud to see none of her petals had fallen to the ground. But when she looked down, she saw a white shape on the ground below her. It was the tiny dove's egg nestled deeply in the grass. Oh my goodness! It must have fallen out of the nest during the storm, she thought. Surely the mother and father dove will find it. She wished she could only call out to them and tell them where the egg was lying, but she could only watch as the doves flew back and forth looking for the egg, making sad, mournful sounds. Look, they're looking for the egg. All day the doves searched for their tiny egg, but they never saw it in the grass beneath the rose. When the sky began to darken, the dove flew back to the branches in the fig tree. If the egg is not kept warm, the baby dove inside will surely die, thought the little rose, as the cool evening breeze began to blow. She was sad to think that that baby dove might never break out of its shell and learn to fly. If only I could keep it warm. Oops. Look, they're sitting on their empty nest. All day the doves searched for a tiny egg, but they never saw it in the grass beneath the rose. When the sky began to darken, the doves flew back to the tree branches. Oops, missed a page. As the moon rose to the sky, covering the earth with a silver light, the little rose thought of only way she could keep the egg warm through the chilly night. One by one, she dropped her petals to cover the tiny white dove's egg. When the last one fell and the rose petal blanket was complete, the little rose fell fast asleep to the mournful cooing of the doves above. Look, she dropped all of her petals. Early the next morning, the little rose was awakened by the tiny chirping sounds. What could it be, she wondered, and then she noticed the smallest movement beneath her petals. Suddenly, a tiny dove's beak pointed out from beneath the rose petal blanket. The baby dove is alive, she thought. With joy of the chirping sound grew louder and louder. The mother and father dove heard the baby and flew down from the fig tree. The little rose watched as they lifted their baby from the rose petals and carried it back to their nest. Look at their happy family. Later that morning, as the little rose was listening to the gentle cooing of the doves, she saw the Creator walking on the hillside. Oh dear, she thought. I hope he doesn't notice me. Without my petals, I am no longer beautiful. The little rose was so ashamed, she looked down. But when the Creator stood before her, he gently reached out and touched her stem. You have given all you had to save the life of that baby dove, said the Creator. The little rose felt warm inside at the sound of his voice. One day, when my son lives on this earth, he too will give everything he has. The little rose looked up into the gentle eyes of the Creator. Because of this love you have shown for the baby dove, I will call my son the Rose of Sharon. And he too will give everything he has and show the world my love just as you have. Here's the rose being enveloped by God's love, and here's the cross. The Creator tenderly touched the stem once more, and as he walked through the hillside, the little rose joyfully lifted her face to the warm light of the sun. And there's the rose with the dove family. The end. Isn't that a great story of contagious compassion? That rose sacrificed everything to save that little baby dove, just like God's Son Jesus has done for us. That is a great story. I want to thank you guys for joining me today in my tent, in my basement. And I want to thank you for enjoying our story. I will have another lesson for you this coming Sunday. And in the meantime, continue to spread contagious compassion everywhere you can, because if a little rose can do it, I know you can too. Have a blessed night. Good night. God loves you.